Hello everyone, welcome to Class Examinations with your host Professor Reha, and here we are taking a look at the Warlord class. This is the final Soldier something else combinations we'll be looking at. This is specifically Soldier Oathkeeper, and this is one of the most coordinated combinations in the game. I am not kidding you when I tell you that literally 100% of the abilities in one class can be completely and 100% effective in the other one. If you are looking to do a full improv build and be guaranteed to have it work no matter what you do, this is that combo. This is the class you play. It is always 100% perfectly coordinated. I don't even need to specify. There's just nothing wrong you can do. You cannot mess this up because it will always be effective. I don't even need to detail specific skills that work well with both because, frankly, there's no wrong you can do. But there is an interesting little concept that not a lot of people talk about, and a very interesting build that doesn't occur to a lot of people. So I am going to talk about a very specific build. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this combination because, like I just said, there is no wrong way of doing this. It is impossible to play this class combination wrong. There is no such thing as a bad Warlord. There are mediocre ones, I will freely admit that, but there's no bad Warlord. Unless your equipment rots, in which case that's more of your bad luck than the actual class combination. But something that a lot of people think about or talk about is the very interesting potential to do a really weird yet strangely potent poison vitality retaliation build. And this is fairly interesting for a couple of reasons. We slap in very specific things here. First off, okay, so actually I'm kind of curious, does that, yeah, it does convert that, alright. So really what you're doing here is you are going absolutely full on into pure 100% retaliate. Well, I won't say 100% retaliation, but you're pretty darn close. Actually, we would be able to finish the Menhir's Will if we slap these up, and usually I'll go military conditioning. So, essentially what you're doing here is you're going into, obviously, Path of the Three. Poison, acid, vitality damage. Delicious, that's fine. The Celestial Presence from your famed Guardians of Empyrean. These guys are great. So, yeah. Also keep in mind that these guys can't die, which is fairly interesting. So you just have these guys running around, decreasing the resistances, the salient resistances of your enemies. Now, the reason why Counter-Strike is usually what we're going into here is, besides doing physical and bleeding damage, which is nice and all, it gives you retaliation damage, and it gives you really good retaliation damage increases. This increases the attack of Aegis of Menhir by your retaliation damage, so you are just doing absolutely insane amounts of damage. Here we have additional retaliation damage. That's 38% of your retaliation damage. Slap on the right components, slap on the right pieces of equipment. This really hurts enemies. This is primarily functioning as your AoE, really, because it does bounce to, well, it theoretically can hit 5 or so people. And then your Righteous Fervor is essentially acting as your single target damage. Now, Dreeg's Reproach is 100% the reason why we picked this, but besides that benefit, you have the absolutely fantastic increase via retaliation damage, once again. Just saying. And then, of course, these guys function more as distractions, resistance reduction, Counter-Strike for the obvious reason, more retaliation damage. Notice this also does bleeding damage. Notice these guys decrease bleeding resistance. Just a fun little fact. And then, usually, Menhir's Will is great. military conditioning is obviously great. If you wanted to not go into these, if you wanted to go into field command and squad tactics to make your guardians stronger, you can absolutely do that. If you want to increase your internal trauma and physical damage a little bit, which are not being excessively modified by Path of the Three, you could go decorated soldier. You could absolutely do that. And you want to take advantage of that bleeding resistance reduction, blade arc, and laceration. There's really, while I'm very hyper specific here, I didn't need to be. I could have just gone without that. But that is a build that not a lot of people think about. Is a retaliation focused vitality and poison build with a soldier. It just doesn't occur to a lot of people. It's kind of fun to play. It's not that effective, at least not. I haven't been able to get it to be like mind-bogglingly awesome personally. But I'm sure probably there's a way out there, depending on specific pieces of equipment or whatever. So, at the end of the day, the true strength of this combination is essentially in the fact that you can build literally anything and have it work pretty well at the very least. Now, I will actually mention a quick exception and something that you should be very aware of, is that Fire's Might is consistently, for me, better than Blitz. Because this is doing basically a little bit more damage to Blitz. Now, granted, keep in mind, yes, you are seeing the 135% weapon damage here. This is only 110%. But this is doing more types of damage that you can enhance. Physical, piercing, internal trauma. Then we also get fire in here at this point. And then we get some bleeding as well. Now, if you're going into Divine Mandate, which is basically Olorin's Rage but with fire, then you're basically boosting this by quite a lot. Because not only are you boosting these initial damage types, you're also boosting Volcanic Stride. If you decide to go with... Actually, it doesn't even matter what you build, because if you are increasing on your physical damage and not the fire, or the poison vitality, then you're looking at this. So, rather than Blitz, I just don't... Compared to Fire's Might, Blitz just doesn't do enough. Now, there are some situations, obviously, in which you are going to be looking for Blitz. Blitz does reduce defensive ability. Blitz does have a higher focus on physical and internal trauma. This is all really nice. It moves faster. But at the end of the day, you need to live, and Fire's Might consistently dishes out more damage once it's where it needs to be. So... yeah, other than that, there's really not a whole lot to say else, because everything just works so incredibly well. I mean, eventually, you can, cobble together a build if you really want to. That's totally up to you. But how you go about this is completely up to you, because there's no wrong choice here. Absolutely, 100%. Well, again, other than the Fire's Might Blitz Brigade debate, which I usually use the Fire's Might because it's just a little bit more versatile. It has that physical and internal trauma damage, but it also has fire damage that makes it a little bit more broadly useful. But I can understand maybe going into Blitz instead. You might have an item that enhances it. Maybe you just like the speed because it does go faster than Fire's Might. It's totally up to you. I just personally prefer Fire's Might, but there's no wrong choice overall. The only, I think, and this is, again, referring to Fire's Might and Blitz, is that every once in a while, Blitz is just straight up more effective because of the speed. Usually, if Blitz is going to be more effective from a non-equipment standpoint, you have allies that you may need to save. In those cases, I have played with allies, and he had Fire's Might instead of Blitz, and got into a situation too late because Fire's Might wasn't as fast as Blitz was, and for some reason I keep wanting it and expecting it to be. But no. But yeah, other than that, really, in all honesty, you can build this 100% however you want, and it will work. Just a heads up. Because even if you splash some fire damage in, having a little bit of extra damage is never a bad thing. So, with that in mind, I know this one's abnormally short, but you can understand, when you take a look at this combination, you look at the skills, you can see what I'm talking about, how everything flows so beautifully in this combination. It doesn't need a lot of explaining. The combination, this is the only combination I will describe as being 100% self-explanatory. So with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. Leave comments down below, please. I love reading them. And thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great 24 hours.